Hey everyone, welcome to today's deep dive. We're going to be talking about how generative AI is changing construction. I'm super excited to dive into this. We're looking at an article on Oracle.com from June 20th, 2024 called The Impact of Generative AI in Construction. And get this, Gen AI is the fastest growing tech product EVR. It's going to change how we build, well, everything.
Yeah, things are moving really fast. It's super interesting to see Gen AI being used to solve real problems in construction right now.
Okay, so probably most of our listeners have heard of Gen AI, but just so we're all on the same page, can you give us like a quick explanation of what it is?
Sure, just imagine a really advanced computer program. It understands and generates text that sounds like a human wrote it. So it can summarize complex info, pull out important facts from documents, even make new content.
So it's not just throwing random words around, it actually gets what they mean.
Exactly. And it's all thanks to these things called large language models. They're these massive data sets that are used to train Gen AI, so it can understand and make text just like we do.
Wow, that's kind of mind-blowing. And it's not just some theory. Remember when ChatGPT came out, it got 1 million users in just 5 days.
Oh, yeah. It shows there's a ton of interest in this tech.
For sure. Especially when you think about construction, there's so much paperwork and data. The possibilities are endless.
Absolutely.
Like imagine summarizing a stack of building permits in like seconds, or having AI analyze a project schedule
Mhm.
and catch potential delays before they happen.
You got it. Those are some really key use cases. It's not just about saving time either. Gen AI can totally transform how construction projects are run, making them more efficient, cost-effective, and even safer.
Definitely. And I know McKinsey found that there are 20 job openings for every new hire in construction. That's
Mhm.
crazy. Could Gen AI be the answer to that labor shortage?
Well, it's not going to be building houses by itself anytime soon, but it can definitely help with training and onboarding new workers. Think about using Gen AI to create training simulations or personalized learning for new
Oh,
hires.
so it's kind of like having a virtual mentor?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, especially with so many experienced workers getting ready to retire. Capturing their knowledge is going to be super important, and Gen AI can help us do that better.
Okay, so it's not about getting rid of human workers. It's about giving them tools to be better.
Right. The goal is to let human experts focus on the stuff they're best at, like solving problems, critical thinking, and creative design.
Gotcha. This article lists 7 specific ways Gen AI is being used in construction right now. Some of them are really fascinating, like using AI to find building code violations before they even become problems.
Yeah, that's a big one. Building codes can be so complicated and always changing. It can save companies a lot of time and money.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I'm also really interested in the idea of using Gen AI to analyze past projects, to minimize risk.
Right.
Can you give us an example of how that would actually work?
Sure. Imagine an AI looking at data from hundreds of bridge projects. It might see that projects with certain soil conditions or a certain type of material tend to go over budget. With that knowledge, project managers can be warned about those risks early on and then take steps to prevent them.
Wow, that's incredible. It's like having a crystal ball that can predict problems before they even happen. But let's be real, it can't all be perfect, right? There have to be some challenges and limitations to using Gen AI in construction.
Oh, you're definitely right. Like with any new technology, there are things to watch out for. One of the biggest is that it can make mistakes.
Oh no. So the AI could mess up and cause problems, like design a building that's going to fall down.
Well, that's a pretty extreme example. But it's true that Gen AI is still being developed. It's not perfect. It can sometimes give wrong information or make bad decisions, especially if it's trained on bad data. These errors are called hallucinations.
Hallucinations. It's like AI is seeing things that aren't real. That's a little creepy.
It's a way of saying that the AI is making stuff up, which means we need to make sure humans are checking its work.
That makes sense. You wouldn't want to just trust an AI to design a bridge without an engineer looking it over.
Exactly. Human expertise is still super important, especially for big projects.
Okay, so human oversight is key. But even if we can avoid those hallucinations, is there a chance Gen AI could eventually replace human jobs in construction? What about all the architects, engineers, and construction workers?
That's a good question, and it's something to think about. But right now, it seems like Gen AI will probably help human jobs, not replace them.
So it's more like a really powerful tool than a robot that steals jobs.
Exactly. Think of it as a helper that does the boring and repetitive tasks, that frees up human workers to focus on the more complex and creative stuff.
That's reassuring. You can't teach a computer to have the same instincts as an experienced construction worker.
Right. You're right. Intuition and experience are still super valuable in construction. AI can't copy that.
So what does this mean for the future of construction? Are we going to have buildings designed and built entirely by robots?
I think the future is going to be humans and AI working together. We're already seeing companies like Oracle putting Gen AI into their construction software. This means that even smaller construction companies can use these tools.
That's amazing. It sounds like Gen AI could make the industry more accessible to new people than smaller companies. But are construction companies actually using this new technology? Are they ready to trade in their hard hats for headsets?
Well, construction can be slow to adopt new technology, but more and more people are realizing that Gen AI can help solve some of the biggest challenges in the industry.
It's not a question of if it'll be adopted, but when.
Exactly. The
Definitely.
people who are already using it are seeing the benefits, and that's going to encourage others to do the same. We're still early in this tech revolution, but Gen AI is definitely going to change how we design, build, and manage construction projects in the future.
That's a great point. We've covered a lot in part one, but there's still so much more to talk about. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll dive into these 7 specific ways Gen AI is being used in construction right now.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. Let's get into those 7 ways Gen AI is changing the construction game. Like this Oracle article talks about. We've already touched on a few, but I want to hear more.
You got it. Let's start with the simplest one, automation. Gen AI can handle those repetitive tasks that slow down construction projects. Think about things like processing invoices, managing schedules, even finding safety hazards on a job site.
Oh, wow. That sounds amazing for project managers. They're always buried in paperwork and spreadsheets. What else is on the list?
Well, design and planning is another big one. Imagine you give the AI all the project info,
Yep.
site data, building codes, what the client wants, and it comes up with different design options. Each one is like optimized for efficiency and cost.
That's wild. But wouldn't architects and engineers feel like their creativity is being taken away if an AI is doing the design? It's not about replacing human creativity. It's more like boosting it. Gen AI can do the technical stuff, crunching numbers and coming up with initial ideas. That gives the designers more time to focus on the artistic side. You know, the things that make a building really special.
So it's more like they're working together. AI handles the technical stuff and humans do the creative stuff.
Exactly. It's all about using the best of both worlds. Now, the third point the article talks about is using Gen AI for building codes. It can find and fix violations, which is a huge pain for construction companies.
Oh, I bet. There are so many rules to follow. How does AI help with that?
Think of it like a supercode inspector. It looks at building plans and instantly flags any potential violations. It even suggests ways to fix things and make sure everything's up to code.
Wow, that could save so much time and money. What's next?
Okay, well, we talked about this a little bit already, but Gen AI is really good at summarizing documents. Construction involves a ton of paperwork, and Gen AI can condense those long reports and contracts into easy-to-read summaries.
Well, thank goodness. No more spending hours trying to understand legal stuff or going through pages and pages of technical details. What's next?
So we also talked about Gen AI being able to minimize risk by looking at data from past projects. But it can do even more than that. It can find patterns that humans might miss and predict potential issues like cost overruns, safety problems, even delays.
That's amazing. So instead of just relying on gut feelings or experience, you can use data to make better decisions.
Exactly. It takes the guesswork out of project management and helps companies be more prepared for risks.
I love that about Gen AI. It's like having a time machine that can analyze the past and help us avoid making the same mistakes again.
Yeah, exactly. Learning from the past is one of the coolest things Gen AI can do. Now, the sixth thing Gen AI can do is make construction schedules.
Oh, wow. So instead of trying to put together a schedule by hand, you can just let the AI do it.
Yep, that's the idea. Gen AI can take into account all the different factors, like how much work needs to be done, what resources are available, even the weather. And it makes a schedule that's efficient and minimizes any downtime.
Wow. I'm starting to think project managers might finally get a good night's sleep if they have AI doing all this work for them.
Yeah, I think they might. Now, the last point in the article is about how Gen AI can help with the labor shortage in construction.
Right. With all the experienced workers retiring and not enough new people coming in, it's a big problem. How can AI help with that?
Well, by automating things, streamlining processes, and providing training and support. Gen AI can help companies get more done with fewer people. It could even make the industry more attractive to younger people who are already comfortable with technology.
That's a great point. We always hear about AI taking jobs, but here it could actually bring in new talent. and create new opportunities.
Exactly. It's about shifting the focus from manual labor to things that need critical thinking and problem solving, things that humans are really good at.
Okay, so it's not about replacing workers. It's about giving them better tools to make their jobs easier and safer.
You got it. And that's good for everyone. Now we've been focusing on the good stuff about Gen AI in construction, but we can't forget about the challenges. One of the biggest is the risk of errors, the hallucinations we were talking about before.
Right. How do we make sure these AI systems are reliable and don't accidentally cause more problems than they solve?
That's where human experts come in. We need to make sure Gen AI is trained on good data and that everything it produces is checked by experienced professionals.
So it's really about humans and AI working together to get the best results.
Exactly. We need to find the right balance, using AI's strengths but still relying on human judgment.
All right, we've gone over the 7 main ways Gen AI is being used in construction. Before we move on, I want to go back to something you mentioned before about Oracle's role in all this. How are they helping to bring Gen AI to the construction industry?
Well, they're playing a big role. By putting Gen AI into their construction software, this makes those tools available to more companies, even smaller ones that might not be able to develop their own AI.
So they're making this technology available to everyone.
Yeah, exactly. They're also focusing on making sure it integrates well with existing systems, so companies can start using Gen AI without having to completely change everything they're already doing.
That makes sense. Nobody wants to deal with a bunch of complicated changes.
Right. They want to make it easy for construction companies to use AI and start seeing results.
So Oracle is making Gen AI easier to use, more user-friendly, and it works with what companies already have.
Exactly. It's a sign that the Gen AI revolution in construction is here. Now, before we finish up, I want to talk about one of the coolest things about Gen AI again. It can learn from past projects and predict potential problems. It's like having a time machine that can see what might happen in the future.
Yeah, I know. It's one of the things that blows my mind about this technology. How does Gen AI do that?
It's all about the data. By giving Gen AI a ton of information about past projects, we can teach it to find patterns and connections that humans might not see.
So it's like giving the AI a history lesson on construction.
Exactly. And it can learn from both the good and the bad things that happened in the past.
So Gen AI can predict problems and suggest solutions.
Right. It's all about using data to make better decisions and avoid repeating mistakes.
So this is what I find really exciting. If Gen AI can do this for construction, what other industries or parts of our lives could it change?
That's a great question, and one that we'll be asking for a long time. The possibilities with Gen AI are really incredible, and we're only just getting started.
Yeah, it really makes you think about what's possible, huh?
It does.
But for now, let's get back to construction. We've talked about a lot today. What Gen AI is and how it could change the industry.
Yeah, we have. And it's clear that this technology could make construction better in so many ways. More efficient, cheaper, and safer, too.
Definitely. And it's not just about the tech itself. It's about how we use it. Like you said before, it's about humans and AI working together.
Exactly.
We need to find that sweet spot where we use the power of AI,
Right.
but don't lose that human touch, the expertise.
Right.
Well, I think we've given our listeners a lot to consider today. Any last thoughts before we wrap up?
Just one. Keep learning and keep asking questions. This is a field that's changing all the time. The possibilities are endless.
Couldn't agree more. It's exciting to see this all happening. Huge thanks to you for being here and sharing your knowledge.
Happy to be here.
And to all our listeners out there, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Gen AI and construction. We hope you learned a lot and maybe even got inspired.
See you next time.
Keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.